Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Terminator Genisys. So, really, there is a lot of confusion and I think retconning going on within this movie. Plus, there is also a lot of times where we are copying and pasting from the original Terminator film. But really, I like the fact that this movie does kind of go into nostalgia. Uh, really, also, this movie does kind of change the way of doing things. Instead of just sending one Terminator back to try to take down either Sarah Connor or Kyle Reese, we end up having seemingly multiple Terminators in this film. We have the liquid metal Terminator. We end up having the original movie Terminator in this film. We end up having, of course, the John Connor Terminator in this film. So, really trying to branch out and really try to just say, like, hey, like, if anything, I guess they have kind of perfected taking down these Terminators in a time period that doesn't quite exactly make sense. But it's just a Terminator movie. So for this movie, I do like the nostalgic thing of this film. I do like that we have Arnold in a different kind of barrage of different ways. Like we have, of course, like CGI'd Arnold. We have Pops, who's younger and older, and also like Pops as a different, uh, even younger person who is protecting after Sarah Connor. When I think she ends up turning like 9, I think. So we have a lot of stuff to unpack within this film. And that was kind of my hesitation of like, God, there's so much to talk about in this film compared to any others. Considering how much time jumping that they have to do. Here's the goofy thing. So we still have Miles Dyson grant you different like different looking Miles Dyson, who still ends up doing Skynet. He still puts Skynet together. Like it's not a military force that ends up doing it, like in Terminator 3. Like, we have so many different ways for Skynet to come online in all of these movies. Like, it just kind of gets to the point of just like, God, like, couldn't they have had like some kind of continuity where it's just like, it's always like the same people, or like, it's always kind of like the same like connection every single time. So that way there is some kind of continuity. But they do jump around in this movie to just be like, well, like we're gonna do a little bit of a time period piece, but then we're gonna just thrust right into 2017 in this movie, so that way we don't actually have to do a time period piece film. Kind of feels like man, it could have been really fun to just kind of like redo some of the stuff in Terminator 1 and have fun with it, but sadly that's what they just do in this film. They just kind of go into like, well, let's just jump into a current time because Kyle Reese says so. And plus, really, Judgment Day is whenever the heck that it needs to be at this point. Like, we have Judgment Day who ends up getting pushed back so many years, it's ridiculous. And so, going into this movie, there feels to be a ton of retcons going on in this film, and a lot of people might have like a problem with this film just because they're like, well, hey man, it changes this and it adjusts that. Like, is John Connor going to be like, how old is he gonna be? How is it John Connor, future John Connor, but then Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese are in 2017? How is that gonna work? How is Judgment Day still going to happen? Like, plus, really they go to the same storyline again, that instead of trying to live through the whole Judgment Day thing, they go and try to prevent Judgment Day yet again. really just saying that, like, well, hey, if we can stop Judgment Day because it's going to happen eventually, or it's inevitable. They've kind of said that through a number of movies. Like, that is just the hands down goofy thing of this film. Is it like, well, it's inevitable that Judgment Day is going to happen. Well, then why continue through every single film trying to prevent it, trying to stop it? It's pointless. Just have your baby and just have your baby and die like seemingly 2 days later, and like just fulfill the prophecy. You know what I'm saying? Just fulfill that baby making prophecy in this film. That's all you got to do. So really, I think it is kind of funny how Arnold and or Pops in this movie, we really have this character that has brought a lot of fun into these films. Really, we have in this movie Arnold just really makes this fun by simply smiling like really big in this film. Really, like that's his comedy in this movie is him just smiling really really big. And so like he doesn't have a lot of lines besides like I'm old but not obsolete. Here's the thing. What is it with like we have Arnold who ended up doing this movie called The Last Stand, and he was like this sheriff. And really the trailer would just have Arnold say like, hey, how are you doing, Sheriff? And he's like, old. It's like, well, like, how's your weekend going? Old. To where now in this movie, we now have Arnold who is going into this movie and he's like, well, I'm old, but I'm not obsolete. It's like, well, technically, when really looking at it, Arnold was built in the future, so technically he's not old at all. Technically, he is probably younger than everybody because he technically has not even been built yet during the time of which he is in. Plus, also, they never actually tell us who brought Pops back to this time period. So that kind of sucks. Like, I wish that eventually, towards the end of this film, they would have told us something. Because here's the thing, like, we have this mystery which was never solved of who sent Pops back to this timeline. Was it actually a future Terminator who was Arnold sending this Arnold Terminator back? Was it quite possibly John Connor's kids? Was it actually Sarah Connor herself? Was it John Connor's wife? Was it whoever wasn't John Connor at the end of this, and whoever was it Kyle Reese who sent? Who was it? I want to know. But with that said, yeah. So there's kind of some goofy things going in this movie. There's some retcons being done. I think they wanted to take this movie as a reboot of this franchise, but instead we just had the movie that came after this that just demolished all of that. It's like, no, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to do a reboot. No. We're just going to do like how I want to do. Like, we're just going to just forget all those other movies. That's what I'm going to do. James Cameron. So let's go on to the double five timed territory because I want to there's probably a lot to unpack in this film, and I'm going to try to rush through it as well. So I think it's about that coveted time to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this movie. Also, I already have footage of me reviewing Terminator Dark Fate, I had gotten it from the other channel, and so more than likely, whenever this goes up, probably Terminator Dark Fate will probably go on to the channel soon after that. Because I've kind of been waiting to finish every single one of these Terminators and then just deliver Dark Fate. Uh, already have done the review of it, already done, like, it's just old footage just putting on here just to kind of finish out the series of the Terminator. So this will be the last Terminator movie that I actually have to review. Eventually, I'll probably go into the Sarah Connor Chronicles Season 2, and then that will quite possibly be it for me and Terminator after that is done, because unless they start popping out other movies or something, then I think that'll probably have to be it for Terminator, unless there is some kind of something that I've yet to be aware of. So, going into this, let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time, it's about that time I'm going to spoil this movie. So, if I haven't done that already. So, we have the Kyle Reese story, in all honesty, in this film. I think we try to go through the perspective of Kyle Reese in this movie because it seems like he is the person that we've uh, invested the least amount of time to in this film. So it kind of seems perfect. So we have Kyle Reese, who is to open up in this movie to showcase to us that uh, that this kid had had a normal life, and then Judgment Day happened, and then Kyle was to eventually be saved by John Connor when Kyle Reese was being attacked by a Terminator. It seems Kyle Reese had mentioned that he did not even know that the Terminators could actually get killed. But in Terminator Salvation, John Connor is to tell people exactly how to kill every Terminator. Just jab something into their neck and then just try to just kill them via that. So technically, Kyle Reese did figure out how to kill a Terminator. They could be killed. So pushing on. So Kyle Reese is a older man and is with John Connor. Kyle Reese is to mention some outpost of the Terminators to go and take down, but John Connor is like, no, 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 no. We need to actually go here because here is where we'll actually be able to beat the Terminators, because this spot here is a place to go back in time. There's a time travel port there that they need to go into to travel back in time. So we have Kyle who's like, well, yeah, so if we go here, we can basically beat the Terminators and just take down Skynet. So we have Kyle who asks John, well, hey man, like, what do you want to do when, like, we defeat Skynet? Kyle mentions that he wants to have a white picket fence life, go back to his old home, rebuild it brick for brick, and then have a wife, a kid, and just a happy ending for him. And so Kyle asks John, it's like, well, hey, what would you want to do, like, after this whole thing is over? And John is like, well, I'd like to have a beer. Kyle's like, you don't have anything other than that? And John's like, no, like, I haven't really thought past, like, us actually, like, beating Skynet. Like, I never thought beyond that. And plus, also knowing full well that there are other alternate Terminator timelines where John gets killed after he beats Skynet anyways, so I guess probably John has no real thought process of what is going to happen when all this is done. Because really, like, there is no Sarah Connor giving him a recording telling him exactly what happens at XYZ point. So, after Skynet is all done, because it seems like Skynet will never be done, honestly. So, we go on, and we have John, and we have Kyle with all of their military men going into this place and taking it over, taking down all of the Terminators. And so immediately it seems that there had been a Terminator already sent to the past, which of course was the very first Terminator from the original film. CGI'd Arnold. CGI'd Terminator. So we have, of course, John going like, well, we need to send somebody back. Who wants to go? And we immediately have Kyle who says, well, guess what? I'm going to be the guy. And John is like, well, why should I send you? And Kyle's like, well, you know how many stories that you've told me about Sarah Connor? It's like, dude, I know Sarah Connor much more so than anyone else does. Like, believe me, if there is one person to send back, it's gotta be me. So John's like, well, yeah, I was gonna send you anyways, because see you later, bye, Dad. What? What? You call me Papa? You call me Dad? But eventually that happens in this movie. It's bound to happen. So we have Kyle who is to be sent back to the past. We have John who is to tell Kyle before he goes, hey, like, make sure you give Sarah this this speech that I've memorized and whatever for you to say, and tell her that the future isn't set and all that garbage. But you know what also? Like, when you meet her, she's going to be a waitress, and she's not going to be as strong as I built her up to be, so, like, take it easy on her. Like, you know? So, we have Kyle, who ends up going back in time into the quantum leap thing to be sent back. So, while that is going on, we have the Terminators that are intercepting John Connor, and so we have, I guess, one of the military guys are actually one of the Terminators, and so we have this Terminator going and touching onto John Connor to turn him into a Terminator. And so Kyle is watching John Connor turn into a Terminator, and there's nothing he can do because he's being sent back. So we have that happen, and so we are now in original Terminator movie time period. So we have CGI Terminator sent to the time to get to Sarah Connor. So we have this Terminator who is to go, of course, to these punk rock looking guys. And so this replaced the entire opening of the original Terminator, where we have the punk rocker looking guys, the guys with the mohawks and clothes and such. We have them like, hey, laundry day, huh? Nothing clean. They're like, yes, nothing clean. So we have CGI Arnold asking, like, give me a clothes. And so we have Pops, who is another Terminator sent back to help Sarah Connor. We have Pops saying, you're not going to need any clothes. So he tosses his hood off to showcase that this Arnold and that Arnold are one and the same. So we have this fight out to where, of course, we have Pops and Arnold going and fighting it out. We have them breaking railings. We have them like scratching skins and stuff like that. Stuff is coming off. We have eventually Sarah Connor, who's waiting in the wings with some kind of bizarrish sniper gun of sorts, and she is to pop this this CGI Terminator into the chest and just take it down. So Pops is to like, oh, all right, yeah, like we did it. Well, you did it. I just distracted it and tried to take it down, but it just took forever because I'm old, but not obsolete. So we have Sarah and Pops going and retrieving this Terminator because they need the chip from its brain. So they go collect this thing and toss it in the back of their truck. So we are off to have both Pops and Sarah go and now having to retrieve Kyle because it seems that they know exactly where Kyle is because it seems that this Pops knows all kinds of information about the Terminator timeline, like I guess a lot of other Terminators that end up coming back also do. So we have Kyle who is to fall onto the ground bare butt naked, and we have, of course, a hobo who's like, hey man, did you see a bright light? Immediately I'm thinking, like, hobo, you're gonna lose your pants pretty soon. Surefire enough. We have Reese who takes the hobo's pants and goes on a run to try and evade these police officers. We, of course, have Kyle Reese going and grabbing one of the police officers' guns and asks them in a different tone, like, what's the day? What year is it? Like, he says it more calmly, where in the original Terminator, Kyle Reese sounds more angry. So we have the police officer tell Kyle, it's like, well, it's the day that you arrive. And Kyle's like, say what now? So we have Kyle who ends up shooting this cop to find out that it's a liquid Terminator. And he's like, oh crap. So we have Kyle who is to see this Terminator start to like reform. So Kyle ends up running into this store to try to get more clothes, sneakers, trench coat, just as much clothes as he can to try and, one, hide from not only this Terminator, but also cops that are also looking for Kyle. So we have Kyle, who of course hides in the phone booth, and so, or in the phone booth, in the photo booth, I mean. We have Kyle getting out to eventually smack into two of the police officers. We have one of the police officers who has the actual name in this movie called O'Brien, because in future time he's played by J.K. Simmons. So, and J.K. Simmons has a whole reason why he's in this movie. So we have Kyle bumping into these police officers. So we have Kyle getting cuffed, and he is to go on to get arrested. But we have Liquid Metal Terminator going and stopping Kyle from getting arrested by going and attacking this police officer and Kyle, to where Kyle was trying to tell them there was a Terminator chasing them and they all had to get out of here, but the cops weren't believing him at all. And so we have both O'Brien and Kyle hiding behind some God, what is it called? Some store shelves of things, let's just say that. So we have Kyle who is telling this O'Brien character, dude, uncuff me because I was telling you the truth. And O'Brien's like, dude, you're a criminal. Like, I'm not going to uncuff you. So we have this Terminator, this liquid Terminator, going and like attacking both O'Brien and and Kyle. And so we eventually have O'Brien who ends up uncuffing Kyle. They end up trying to make a break for it, and eventually Sarah ends up driving through this building, smashing into the liquid metal Terminator, and says, "Come with me if you want to live." So we, of course, have Kyle go along with Sarah, and so we have Kyle who is talking to Sarah, and it seems like she's a way different Sarah than Kyle realizes. So we have Sarah with all kinds of future information that she's not actually supposed to have because it doesn't make sense. And so uh, we have Sarah who, or we have Kyle who is to tell Sarah, like, well, yeah, like, I'm here to protect you from a Terminator that's supposed to come back from the future. And Sarah's like, oh, well, we already took care of him. So Kyle looks back into the back of this truck to see one CGI'd Arnold taken down. But then Kyle ends up also seeing Pops. So we have Kyle who goes and grabs a gun to try to shoot Pops. And Sarah's like, don't shoot Pops! Like, he's on our side. And Kyle's like, no, like, don't trust him, he's a Terminator. So we have Sarah eventually convincing Kyle that Pops is okay. And so, of course, Pops tries to smile. And he's like, God, that looks so weird. So, we are to push on to have Pops and Sarah take Kyle to their hideaway. So we take out the original Terminator from the original film, and have him being set aside. So we have Sarah and Pops go on to eventually go and talk more to Kyle about what is going on. And so we have the liquid metal Terminator coming back to where Kyle and Sarah and Pops are all hiding out to go and, of course, have this liquid Terminator dip a little bit of him into CGI'd Arnold and try and go after Sarah. We have Sarah who gets into the part of this hideout to where there is a ton of acid that is up into this rafter part of this this hideaway. So we have Sarah who accidentally has a little dip of acid dropping onto her coat. So we have Sarah who ends up spraying down her arm so that way it doesn't like leak through or she doesn't hurt herself. So we have Kyle who ends up bumping back into the original Terminator, this guy. And so we have Kyle who ends up exploding away every single bit of course, this Arnold's skin to have him go after Kyle. And so we eventually have Kyle who ends up figuring out how to take down this Terminator. And so we eventually go on to have Kyle who is to now go back to find Sarah. Coincidentally, we have the liquid metal Terminator that is also trying to do the exact same thing. So Sarah is to greet two Kyles, and so she's to have a decision to do about who is the right Terminator. So, or who is actually the liquid Terminator, and who is Kyle Reese. Let me pause here for a second. I want to just double check something. Because I was thinking like, how exactly does the original Terminator be taken down? Through electrocution, but then eventually Kyle Reese goes and shoots the original Terminator's head off, and so that's how it ends up. It ends up dying. So I like I had to go and like double check that because I'm like, how exactly does this Terminator die again? So pushing on. So we have the Liquid Terminator who is to go and we're at odds between two different Kyle Reeses. We have Sarah who ends up shooting one of the Kyles in the foot to realize that that is the liquid metal Terminator, and so we have Sarah yelling to Kyle to run, and so we have Sarah who ends up shooting up the very top of this place that they are in to have a ton of acid all uh, falling down onto this liquid metal Terminator. We have the liquid metal Terminator still getting pretty close to Sarah Connor and almost getting to her, and so we have Pops who jumps in to grab onto this liquid Terminator, pushing him into the acid and having this liquid metal Terminator just all disintegrate and die. To where Pops has, of course, now like his robot arm instead of actually skin. So we are to push on, and the game plan is to have Sarah Connor and Kyle go to the future. Sarah Connor is to think that they need to go to 1996. And so Kyle is like, no, we need to go to 2017. It seems like they have a makeshift time travel device at their disposal. So they just needed the original Terminator's chip uh, to be able to concoct this time travel machine. So we have Kyle who is telling Sarah that they need to go to 2017 because in a alternate timeline, Kyle Reese had been told by someone that that Genisys is Skynet and Judgment Day will be 2017. And so Kyle tells Sarah, like, yeah, like, somebody told me in a different timeline that Judgment Day is 2017. So we have Pops who is saying, like, well, that must be somebody, like, going and alternating the timeline so they can tell us exactly when Judgment Day is. So we have Sarah who gives in to Kyle, and here's also the interesting part. So we have Pops who is consistently telling Sarah that she needs to tell Kyle about his future, that they need to mate and make a baby, and that Kyle is John Connor's father. Like, Pops is telling Sarah that Kyle needs to know everything. And Sarah's like, you know what, like, I'll get to it. Like, I'll get to the whole, like, kissing and love making. And because we have it to where Pops is consistently telling and asking Sarah, like, well, have you mated yet? And she's like, could you stop saying it that way? Like, it just seems so, like, God, take all the romance out of it. So we have Sarah and Kyle, who are, of course, getting as much undressed as they can. And so Kyle is to tell Sarah that he's going to do everything that he can if it means giving up his life to protect Sarah. And Sarah wants to know a little bit about John Connor, like what kind of person he is, because Sarah had gotten some information from Pops, but she really didn't get a feel for who John really is. So Kyle is to tell her stories about him and John going and trying to make moonshine, blowing off their eyebrows, and like kind of fun adventures that they had gone on to. So we have eventually Sarah and Kyle going into the uh, time period or the time travel port. So we have Sarah asking Kyle like is this gonna hurt? Like what's like is this gonna be like is this gonna like what's gonna happen? And so Kyle describes that. We have Kyle who is to or we have Sarah who is trying to demand that Pops also go with them, but Pops is like, well, I can't because my arm. So I have to do this the hard way and try to get back to the perfect day that you guys come back. And Kyle is like, well, yeah, like make sure you get there at the right day. So like I'm not having to go and steal a pair of pants again. And they make a whole joke about that later on when eventually Kyle arrives back or Kyle arrives in 2017. So we have them teleport to 2017, which is right in some traffic somewhere, and it causes this big accident. So we have Pops who is to see where exactly Sarah and Kyle are, and so he is trying to make his way back or make his way to get to Sarah and Kyle, but both Sarah and Kyle get retrieved by some police officers. They get arrested yet again to eventually go to some hospital. And so we have some detectives that are on the case uh, of Kyle and Sarah's, but they're just kind of going through the motions because eventually they're just going to turn this over to Homeland Security and they're going to take care of it. We have O'Brien, who is now much older and is now J.K. Simmons. And so J.K. Simmons is like, hey, like, I want to be part of this case because, like, if anything, like, this case ties into, like, what I've been working on for years. Like, it proves what I've been working on for years, telling that there are robots and people from the future and time travel and all kinds of things. So we have O'Brien not really part of this case, but he forces himself to be part of this case regardless. So we have the detectives going to Kyle and Sarah and mentioning like, yes, Sarah has absolutely no record. She has been completely off the grid whatsoever. And we have Kyle uh, who is in the system, but he is like 14, and like this doesn't actually make sense. And so we have O'Brien, who's like, well, yeah, it makes perfectly good sense because this guy's a traveler. We have O'Brien asking Kyle, it's like, well, hey, were you in the service? And Kyle's like, well, yeah, like I was in the service, and they're like, so was I. I was like, so we eventually have Kyle and Sarah who are kind of butting heads and eventually having an argument. This whole argument is to purposely try and get these officers to try to separate them. While separating them, one of them is to get the keys from the police officer to unlock their cuffs. So we eventually have the police officers leave the room so both Kyle and Sarah can uncuff themselves. So we have seemingly another person that is to come and see both Sarah and Kyle, and it is John Connor. Uh, and also, Pops is making his way with a big giant teddy bear. Pops is going into the security cam room to try and take out the security guard who is watching all the cameras. And so Pops is making his way to find both Kyle and Sarah. So we have John Connor, who is greeting both Kyle and Sarah's a little confused because she doesn't actually know her own son in this time period. And so we have John Connor's like, hey, like don't be afraid, like I'm your son. Like, yeah, like it's great to meet a younger you and for you to actually see who I become. So we go on and have Kyle talking to Sarah and trying to like say like, yeah, like he's your son, like he's John Connor, like I know him, like he's your son. And so we have it to where John Connor takes Kyle and Sarah and leaves the building after John Connor tries to tries to uh, help them figure out that he's not just some other Terminator that looks like John Connor. No, he really is. So uh, we have John Connor remind Kyle about some past thing, which he's like, well, yeah, I believe him. And so uh, John Connor remembers some earlier things about Sarah, how she tried to sing to sing to John Connor, but like she sounded awful. Evidently, she liked Elton John music. I guess was her favorite jam. I guess so. And it seemed that John Connor uh, said that if Sarah was to have a child, she wanted to sing Rocket Man to him. Good God, luckily I remembered that. So we have Connor and Kyle and Sarah going off to this parking lot or this parking garage, and so we have also Pops making his way to greet John, Kyle, and Sarah with a teddy bear that's filled with a shotgun. We have Pops who takes out the teddy bear, pulls out the shotgun, and shoots John Connor. To where Kyle is like, God, I knew it, I knew it, I knew he was the villain, I knew he was trying to kill like Connor, I knew he was trying to stop the future, and Pops is like, no, you don't get it. We find out that John Connor is actually a Terminator. It seems that he was bleeding, but all of that was really and truly just fake. That was all just liquid metal that comes back into John. And so we have John, who is to convince both Sarah and Kyle to join him and become a Terminator as well, because John Connor is the guardian or the defender of Skynet in this time period. And so really John Connor breaks down as Skynet's last hope, because originally John Connor was the hope of humanity. Now he's Skynet's last hope. So we have it to where we have Kyle and Sarah and Pops running back into the hospital after trying to take down John. And so we have Sarah and no. We eventually have Pops, who ends up going and taking John and kind of wrestling through the hospital with him. And so we have Sarah and Kyle, who were to try to reason with Connor, but realize that like it's a waste of time, that really they don't want to be assimilated into being one of John's. So really they're just deciding to to not go along with John and what he's doing. Like, it's kind of interesting to where Sarah and Kyle mentioned to John, it's like, well, hey, if we turn into you or if we die right here, John, you do not exist. And John is like, well, hey, like, this is a whole like different skewed timeline, and if I were to kill you here, like, I would probably still exist. This is like a nexus kind of thing. This is like a timeline to where John Connor still, I guess, has to exist to kill both Sarah and Kyle. And so it's weird. So again, we have Pops who ends up thrusting John through the hospital, eventually making it to an MRI room to where we eventually have the MRI that is on full power. So we have Pops and Connor that are stuck onto this MRI. We have Sarah who ends up retrieving Pops. And so we have Kyle who ends up cranking up the power max to try and take down John. And so John is telling Kyle that he thought that he would understand, that he thought that he would be on his side. So pushing on. So we are to now transition with Pops and Sarah and Kyle to go to a place that Sarah's grandfather used to hang out a lot. And so it seemed that Pops had known about this place, so he had stacked up on the armory in this location. And so we have where Kyle is telling Sarah and Pops to scramble and try to get everything that they can to go against John. So we have Arnold that is coming up with some kind of magnetic weapon to try to go against John, because if Pops is to hit Connor with this metal weapon or a magnet weapon, that John will be not able to like like heal back to where he was normally. It would just stick to where it is because he can't get back into like normal form again. So, because I guess he realized that when they did the whole MRI thing, which is technically a magnet weapon. So, like, Arnold needed to come up with another magnet weapon. So, we are to go on and have them, of course, change clothes yet again because they're in, like, scrubs and whatever. So, we have Sarah, Kyle, and Pops. We have Kyle and Pops going and putting together bullets for weapons and stuff. We have Sarah who's listening to music. So eventually we have John who arrives at this environment to, of course, stop Kyle and Sarah. We have Sarah and Kyle kind of confused on how John knows where this location is. And John is like, well, yeah, Sarah, you told me numerous stories about this place, and how could I not figure out that you would come here? So we have, again, John who's trying to reason with Kyle yet again to showcase him being him, but then also showcase him being future him. Like, you know how many like wars that we have been together with? Like how is it that you like aren't going to be on my side now when you have been on like with my side or on at my side for so long? Plus, we also have a ton of times where we are to throw in the old sayings of the Terminator. He doesn't feel pity or remorse, or he absolutely will not stop uh, until you are dead. There is some kind of switching and changing of the lines, but it's always the same old stuff. So we go on and have Sarah, Pops, and Kyle uh, to run on or to run to this bus to go and drive off to try to get away from John. And so we go on to have, of course, they drive away on this bus. We have John Connor who ends up going on to some kind of motorcycle or something of sorts to eventually jump back onto this bus. And so we consistently have Sarah who's yelling to Pops and Kyle asking, "Where is John?" We have Pops who ends up getting John to grab through the bus to get to Pops, drag Pops uh, down under the bus, and to just have them seemingly run over almost Pops. Pops smashes into some windshield of some car to take over this car to drive back to get to the bus. So we have Sarah yelling consistently to Kyle, "Where is he?" to where we are to see John consistently take out parts of this bus to the point of this bus completely flipping over and almost falling off to the side of this bridge that they are on and almost fall all the way off this bridge to where they're like barely hanging on. We have Pops who is to grab on to seemingly the bumper of this bus to try to keep it from completely falling over. We have Sarah and Kyle trying to get out of this bus because Kyle is just like, whoa, like he's just barely hanging on to this bus. So we have this back and forth of Kyle having to fight John. And so we have Kyle who grabs the metal weapon to try to punch John. And so John gets knocked back to just try to yet again jump from bus seat to bus seat to bus seat to get to Kyle and to get to Sarah. But it leads Sarah and Kyle to jump for Pops' arm. So Pops is holding on to both Sarah, and Sarah is holding on to Kyle. And so Pops lets the bus go, so John is on the bus and going down into the waters of this bridge. So yet again, we end up having both Sarah, Kyle, and uh, Pops getting arrested. So we push on to yet again have O'Brien talk with Pops or to talk with Kyle, and so because basically Pops just kind of like breaks his own cuffs, and then basically almost like just decides to go after uh, one of the uh, people that is actually John Connor disguised as someone else. And so we have the Terminator going after John, and so we have both we have O'Brien that ends up just freeing Kyle and freeing Sarah to have them just go off onto this helicopter, and Pops is to greet them. We have John who is falling behind them and eventually going after them, and so O'Brien almost gets kind of shot up by John, but he ends up kind of skirting away. So we have this helicopter to go off and to try and get away from John, but John has a helicopter as well. So there's a helicopter fight out. Pops is trying to shoot down John, and they're kind of trying everything to get to take down John. So we have Pops who just decides to take his Terminator body and just like a missile just ram through John's helicopter to again try to stop John from getting to Kyle and Sarah. So we have both Sarah and Kyle who are to make it to the Genisys facility to try and stop Skynet. We had Kyle, or we had John at some point who was talking to both Miles Dyson and Danny Dyson about the liquid Terminators and stuff that they were coming up with, and that they were so close to doing time travel. And we have John who asks Danny Dyson, like, well, hey, like, when do we want time travel? And Danny goes, it's irrelevant. It's like, so, so yeah, John is like bumping shoulders with Miles and Danny Dyson to see everything go smoothly with Skynet. So we have Sarah and Kyle going into Genisys, and so we also have John who goes and infiltrates Genisys to take down some of the security guards, and so we push on to try and have both Sarah and Kyle try to plant bombs all the way around through this Genisys building, and Genisys or Skynet is telling both Kyle and Sarah, it's like, well, hey, like, what you're doing is inevitable. Like, I only have minutes before, like, I come online. Through these minutes, we are starting to see Skynet growing older from a infant or from a young child to eventually a adult at some point. And so we have Kyle and Sarah planting bombs all over the place, and while they are to eventually plant bombs, John is to eventually arrive, and Sarah is kind of caught off guard, and so because she shoots one of the Skynet cameras to see John coming at her, so we have John who goes and pokes through Sarah's shoulder, and so Kyle has the bomb detonator, and John is telling Kyle that he cannot detonate this because that would kill everyone. And so we have Pops that has the detonator, and so we have Pops who tosses the detonator to Kyle, and we end up finding out that the detonator is broken anyways, that they can't use it. So we have eventually that that Pops is fighting John, and so Kyle and Sarah are trying to figure out another way to take this building down because they can't detonate the bomb. So we have both John and Pops fighting all over the place, to where we have Pops having to push John into the time traveling port, and he is trying to keep him there so that way they can both like kill off, because you can't keep anything from the future in this time period. Like, everything has to be wiped away. So we have Kyle and Sarah that are trying to max out the levels of this whole port to just try and destroy this building as much as it can. And Kyle and Sarah are to go into some secret room to hide out, to where this building is to just like basically come down around them. So we have Pops, who is to eventually be shot out of this time travel port, and John Connor is to eventually get annihilated. To basically, like, his parts cannot come back. Like, his parts are just so separated that, like, he ends up getting destroyed. But Pops ends up getting shot out of this thing to eventually be dipped into this liquid metal. So we have Sarah and Kyle hiding into this bunker to have this bunker be opened by Pops. Pops is to tell Kyle and Sarah that he is to get an upgrade, and that John Connor is taken down, and it seems that Skynet is taken down. So everything is seemingly to be resolved. But we do have a end credit scene where we are to basically see that Skynet, in the rubble of things, is still all good and well to be able to still eventually be Skynet and eventually to take over the world. It's just kind of hiding out. So really, that's just kind of the tail end of this movie. We have Kyle and Sarah who are to be in this little, like, underneath bunker thing, and we have Kyle mentioning how they were gonna lose air out of this room soon, and so they kind of mention how they definitely should be lovers and whichever. Because reasonably, John told Kyle that Kyle is John's father, and so he's like, "Oh, like, okay, well, I get to know that I'm John's dad. Oh, well, that's great." So yeah, really, it's just to cement that these two should be together, and they should eventually, of course, as quickly as humanly possible, make a baby that, of course, is John Connor. So really, I think that's just covering up most of this movie. I think at some parts I didn't go into much detail of something, but it's like, whatever. Like, really, there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and so a lot of stuff could be just like, yeah, me trying to skirt around, like, God, there's so much crap going on in this film. But with that said, yeah, that does conclude or finish up me talking about Terminator films. So, if ever people want me to go into any other thing besides Terminator in the future, I'd be happy to do so. If there's a Terminator project that eventually shows up that I could probably cover, I would be glad to do so. More than likely, might be covering the Sarah Connor Chronicles, but I also don't want to promise that. So with that said, I am going to get out of here. Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.